Today on Comm Talk, we're taking a look at the Ryanverse. Ryan, Jack Ryan.
Let's get dangerous. Glix, what is going on?
We are receiving a signal from a new area on the planet Geekery.
All right, let's see what the planet has for us today.
Opening comms in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to this episode of Comm Talk. This is episode 156, and today we are going to be talking about the Ryanverse. But joining me is Dallas.
Hello, and welcome to our show. We're super excited about it. I can't believe it's 156 episodes. I know that there are some people out there, they're like, it could be more.
It could be. But, we have managed to produce some pretty good episodes.
We have.
Even if we have not been as regular as we would have liked to have been.
Right. So Celeste and you and I just came off our vacation time.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, if you're new to Geek Devotions, you're new to the community, whether that's because you randomly found us because of the article the Assemblies of God wrote about us, or maybe you heard about us on K-Love because we were featured on K-Love recently.
That was crazy.
It was. But either way, Celeste and I, for our annual anniversary vacation, and we just celebrated our 7th.
Woohoo!
We decompress together by watching movies. We take a week off for vacation.
Yep. And
we watch movies. We binged an entire series. And this year we decided to do the Ryanverse.
Mm-hmm.
And so for today's show, we're going to kind of talk about, for the first half of the show, we're going to talk about what the Ryanverse is, what we liked, what we didn't like, that kind of stuff. And the second half, we're actually going to bring a rating to it. And we have a couple caveats on how this is. So we're actually going to have several different ways of looking at this. So that being said, Celeste, what is the Ryanverse?
The Ryanverse is a group of movies that some of them are connected to each other, some of them are not, but they are all based in the world that Tom Clancy has created.
Yeah.
Focusing on a CIA analyst named Jack Ryan.
So a lot of movies with this series. Well, technically, there are 5 Jack Ryan movies and 1 movie that's in the Ryanverse that we watched. And they were fascinating.
It was an interesting time. Dallas and I like spy type movies. Last year for our anniversary, we did Mission Impossible. At some point in this last year, we watched all 9 of the Fast and the Furious movies over it wasn't a vacation, but we had a couple extra days off together at the same time. And we were like, hey, even though we still have some work we have to do,
right?
Let's watch all 9 of these movies. I feel like that was an achievement.
Exactly. So this year we decided to do these partly because we saw that there was a Jack Ryan TV series. Was it HBO or Prime?
No,
it was on Prime.
It's on Prime.
And so we started watching it there.
Watched the first season of that. I'm intrigued to get back to season 2.
It was really interesting.
It was.
Super fascinating. And so it kind of sparked our attention. And we had said before, we like spy movies.
Yeah.
We like these type of things. And
we like political intrigue.
We do. We like political intrigue quite a bit. So we decided to take a dive into this. Now this is done by Tom Clancy.
Yep. And
I got his the wiki on Tom up, and he's done a lot.
He has. He's written a ton of books. And my understanding is that they are all like super technical. So if that's not your style of book, you shouldn't attempt them. Because again, very, very technical, very dry, which I can see from the movies. But they're very well received in the community that reads that style of book.
So I'm looking at his profile. He died in 2013.
Did he really?
He was an American novelist. He's best known for his technically detailed espionage and military science storylines set during and after the Cold War. So apparently 17 of his novels are considered bestsellers, and more than 100 million copies of his books have been sold.
Yeah, I believe that.
So he's got quite a bit under him.
I like that his picture on the wiki page is a black and white with sunglasses because it makes him look much more ominous.
It does. It really does. And so there's a lot of stuff out there. There's more. There are more films with his name attached to it, though.
Really? Did we miss some?
I don't think it's part of the Ryanverse.
Oh.
Well, it is, I guess. Well, maybe not. It's there was one called Net Force, a television movie based on Tom Clancy's Net Force series.
Oh, it's a different series.
Mm-hmm. And then, no, we've seen those. We've seen all those. So, but yeah, there's a lot to them. And there's several video games that I would love to check out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that being said, we watched specifically Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Some of All Fears, Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, and then Without Remorse.
Yes.
And those are all connected.
Without Remorse was a very different tone.
Very different tone. So let's talk about each movie just kind of on its own laurels.
Okay.
First one is The Hunt for Red October.
I had actually seen this one before and forgotten about it.
Did you?
I watched that one and I watched K9 the Widowmaker at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a teenager, so I was not tracking the political intrigue as much because I just didn't have an understanding. But I remember going, this is kind of interesting, and then I fell asleep. So I'm not sure if I can really say that I watched it.
I got you. I watched Hunt for October years ago. Let me read the thing. It's starring Alec Baldwin, Sean Connery, and Scott Glenn.
Young Alec Baldwin.
And the description for the movie is, in November of 1984, Soviet Union's best submarine captain violates orders and heads for the U.S. in a new undetectable sub. The American CIA and military must quickly determine, is he trying to defect or start a war? Now, this was like I said, I watched this years ago when I was a kid on VHS. It's set in 1984, but it came out in 1990.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, they had to put it in 84 for the
political side to make sense.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So, what did you think of this particular film?
I think that Sean Connery is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was he a Russian with a Scottish accent? Yes.
Absolutely. Even when he was speaking Russian.
Mr. Connery does not do voices well.
At all.
He does his voice.
Yes.
And that's it.
And it's a great voice.
See Egyptians from the Highlander.
No, he was an Egyptian. He was a Spaniard.
Bless him. Either way, it was same voice. That man does not do voice acting at all.
No, not in the slightest.
He's a phenomenal actor. The storyline was good. I feel like, though, Jack Ryan got lost.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I forgot the movie was about Jack Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like one of those things where, like, Alec's not a bad actor.
He's not.
He's a talented actor, but in this movie, he is so overshadowed by who Sean Connery is.
Yeah.
He did such a great job of embodying this person who just leads, and you're like, yeah, this is the guy. Really, the Jack Ryan of this, the way that Alec was played and the way the script played out, was just a soft connector between plot points.
Yeah. And I do want to say this. We are not going to comment on anything going on with Mr. Baldwin currently. This is an older movie of his that happened to be in the set of movies we wanted to watch.
Exactly.
So that's all we're going to say about that. I just know someone was going to say something.
Oh yeah, somebody would.
Somebody would.
So, but
it almost, like, even the commander that Ryan was fighting with, I feel like outacted the character. And I don't know if it's that the character was just written so weakly in this movie.
Baldwin's character,
yes. Jack Ryan. if it was just so, like, they played up the he's an analyst, he doesn't know what he's doing side of things too much for this, but he just got lost.
Yeah, he really did. And like I said, it was just kind of a plot connector. It wasn't bad. I mean, he made sense in the story, obviously.
Yeah.
But it just, there's no other way to say it. He's just overshadowed by Connery.
He's I think I phrased it like this when you and I were talking about it later. He's the NPC in the movie. And Connery and a couple of the other actors are the player characters. And he's just the one who's, I'm following the script.
Exactly.
Of what I'm supposed to do.
He's like, yeah, he has some cool scenes. He has some cool moments. The dropping into the water and stuff like that. You know, that was cool. This is definitely 1990s storytelling.
Oh, yes.
And not that that's a bad thing. It's just when you watch it, you have to remember this is a 1990s story. And so storytelling is very differently. Filmography is different. But it's a good story. I was invested all the way through.
I loved the movie personally.
Was there a moment that really just you're like tensed up?
I'm trying to think because we've had about a week since we finished these.
Well, what do you think? Let me tell you mine.
Okay.
Mine was when they're in the sub and they're having to navigate this path.
Oh, yes.
And there was a missile coming after them. And Connery's like he's just winging it. He's like, hold, wait. And he's just counting the times like, all right, hard turn. And all of a sudden, like drifting around a freaking curve.
In a sub.
That whole scene, like I was on the edge of my seat going, oh my God.
The scene where and these are obviously spoilers, but where somebody was trying to set off the nuke in the Red October and they were having to get to it to shut it off.
Yeah.
That was the most intense to me. Like the rest of it was kind of
Yeah.
Like it wasn't intensity wise, it wasn't super engaging, I guess would be the way to say it. Like it was intense, but there was a level of disconnection until that end portion.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, next film that we're going to talk about was Patriot Games. Next one we watched, which was actually the only R-rated film, I think. Maybe.
I thought it was the next one that was R-rated, not Patriot Games.
No, Patriot Games was R-rated.
Okay, never mind.
So Patriot Games with Harrison Ford.
I like Harrison Ford as an actor.
Sean Bean. It's when CIA analyst Jack Ryan interferes with an IRA assassination, a renegade faction targets him and his family for revenge.
Can we back up just briefly because you said Sean Bean and it made me think about something from A Hunt for Red October, and it's just going to be a real quick statement, but Tim Curry was in this movie.
Yep.
As a serious character. That was so strange. Okay, I'm good. That's all I wanted to say.
There you go. It's fair. We'll make time for Tim Curry. So, all right.
We will always make time for Tim Curry.
Harrison Ford. Now, this was kind of like I don't want to say it was a reboot, but it was kind of what it was one part continuation of the Jack. Like basically, Baldwin played a young Jack Ryan, and then this one, Harrison Ford plays an older Jack Ryan who has left the CIA, and he's trying to come back to the CIA.
He ended up coming back.
Right. Because basically, like I said, he was in Europe and he interfered with an IRA attack and he killed a man.
Yeah.
And his brother was not having it and attacked Jack's family.
Yeah.
And so Jack's like, no, we're not playing that game.
Honestly, it made me wonder, and we need to do this series at some point for one of our vacations, but it made me wonder if maybe Harrison Ford could have done the Taken series.
Oh.
Just the whole, you mess with my family, I'm coming after you.
I can see that. The problem with Taken is that after the second one, really after the first one, they're all the same thing.
I was about to say, there's more than two?
I think so.
Oh.
Maybe. We'll look it up later. But anyways, Harrison Ford, I think, played a strong Jack Ryan.
Yes, I think so too.
Again, he doesn't get lost. The story seems to be more around him and his family. We were talking about this, whereas the first movie, was more of this global thing, like global implications, which this one did too, but it was focused so heavily around Jack and his family right there.
Well, and if you think about it, about the time frame that this movie came out, stuff like that was more popular. It was the beginning of the dad does something crazy, but he's going to protect the family type situation, which that's a really bad way of explaining it, but you know what I'm talking about.
I followed you.
But also it focused more on, like, even though it was this kind of was a family style movie. Like, I would not suggest letting your little kids watch this.
My eyebrow just went all the way up.
Up to his
the crown of my hairline.
Yeah, the hairline went straight up to the hairline. I would not suggest letting small children watch this.
Yeah.
But older children who have a better concept, who aren't going to repeat words, who aren't going to have nightmares because of the violence. It's more of a interesting as a, like, this is a family. This is something that...
This is a father out to protect his family.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. And I think that's what I liked about it. Again, it was so humanizing.
Yes.
Again, the first movie, Jack is playing dice on a global scale. This is like, you're attacking my family. I'm going to guard my family. And like one of the most intense scenes for me was the when they're on the highway and they're coming after his wife and daughter.
Oh my gosh. I had a nightmare that night about a crash exactly like that movie.
And then the wrap up the whole thing at the end, whenever they're in the house and he's having to protect his family.
The in the house scene made me think of an acquaintance, a friend of ours. And I was like, this is how he would handle that.
Yes.
He is also an ex-Marine.
Former Marine. We don't say ex-Marine. We say former Marine.
Why?
Because you're always a Marine.
Well, that's true. He still has Marine walk. Like, when he's serious about something, he's heading for a mission.
He's in.
He's walking a very specific way.
I can confirm that he has ran drills for his family on what to do if things hit the fan.
Yep.
And so, not in a weird, creepy way, but like if somebody's attacking his family type of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
in a practical way.
In a practical way. But yeah, I mean, it really was one of those, like, this Jack Ryan did not have, he was not prepared like I would think certain people in his situation would be. Having known a couple of Marine-like individuals because Jack Ryan's a Marine. He's a former Marine. Who came out of the military because of a terrible plane accident or helicopter crash that broke his back. And I appreciate that every film has referenced this in some fashion.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's why he's an analyst, is because he had come out of active duty because of his accident.
Because he's not supposed to be running around.
So, but the entirety of the story was pretty interesting. Again, it's very grounded in a time frame.
It is.
We have no concept of the IRA today.
Nope.
Like none whatsoever.
Most people's concept of the IRA is either the episode of The Crown that dealt with it, or the U2 song.
That's it. Which, that's good. Things have changed a little bit. There's still some tension over there. Yeah. Obviously. But
not quite as tense.
Yeah. But I can see those who watched this back in the 90s being locked in.
Oh yeah.
Then be like, oh my gosh, like this is it. And this is a strength to the series as a whole, is every film is playing with a geopolitical issue that
was a real thing
for them at the time frame. Absolutely.
It definitely helps ground it in realism. Like the movies are not meant to be fantastical. No. They are meant to be very realistic. Although I will say the only real unrealistic thing to me is that the wife did not know where the bullets were to the shotgun. Yeah. Because yes, you don't keep them together, right? But I cannot see somebody who goes, "Hey, the shotgun is here if you need it," not going, "Hey, I moved the bullets over here." Right. Like was a disconnect for me.
Yeah. I am curious though if any of our listeners are former military, and if you have a family and you've taken care of your family, and you're older, you're in this time frame. Because again, Jack Ryan at this time frame they had an 8-year-old girl, but they were seemingly an older couple.
Yeah.
If you were around in the 90s as an adult and you had a family and you're military, would you have taught your wife where things were the way that modern people would have that I know?
That's a good question, because like I'm critiquing the fact that he didn't tell her where the bullets were.
Right.
Because she clearly knew where the gun was.
Oh, yeah.
She just didn't know where the bullets were. Although props to her for going, okay, improvise. Bam!
Bam! Just smack that lady with the butt of the gun.
Straight in the face, which is not pleasant.
Oh my gosh! So this movie was actually I think this movie was a little more intense because it was so grounded.
It also had a lot more action to it.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Stuff got intense with the subs, but because he was picking up his family before they headed to home, back to America, because they were dealing with this guy attacking his family. It was much more action-packed, which again is a product of the time.
Yeah.
Because the 90s movies were starting to get a bit more action-packed.
Yeah, totally. So, any other thoughts on this one before we go on to the next film?
No, I think I'm good on this one.
All right. So the next film that we watched was Clear and Present Danger. Again, Harrison Ford. Donald Stewart was the one who did the screenplay. William Dafoe was in this.
Yes, the Green Goblin.
Which was interesting. The IMDb reads, CIA analyst Jack Ryan is drawn into an illegal war fought by the U.S. government against a Colombian drug cartel.
This one I thought was a bit more interesting to me personally because I remember when this stuff was going on. Like, I don't remember it greatly, but I remember hearing about it in the news. I was a old enough child to catch things as the news was on about stuff. So it was fascinating to me because it was like, oh, I kind of vaguely remember this.
Yeah. Now, it was a fake war, but this was during the quote unquote war on drugs time frame.
Yeah, it was.
That's
what I meant. I'm sorry.
In the wake of stuff like the Gulf War that took place. There's a lot of things that took place in the early 90s, a lot of conflict that we put ourselves into and that we didn't put ourselves into for various reasons. And this plays heavily on the whole the war on drugs issue of going in and handling certain things.
That is what the war on drugs is what I was referring to. I apologize. This was a fictitious event, but
totally fictitious
because the early 90s were so don't do drugs, don't do drugs, don't do drugs, which was a good thing. Don't do drugs, but
don't do drugs, kids, you'll die.
Oh, Cassie. But because it was steeped in that, and that was such a prevalent thing that it was even in cartoons.
Yeah, absolutely.
It kind of connected a little bit better with me personally.
I get that. So this one I think this one more so than the previous ones dealt more with the slimy corruption side of the government.
Which was also a product of the time frame it came out.
Exactly. Like there was a little more, not saying that it was less patriotic, but it was definitely a little bit more, you're seeing the nastiness of people's playing with the politicians, doing things on the side to make things happen here and then denying it later and having the stuff take place. It was a little more intense in that side of things.
Yeah, it was.
Dale had mentioned in a comment on my Facebook page, for him, this felt like more like a made-for-TV movie.
Which I can see.
Yeah, like the cinematography, the storytelling even a little bit. And maybe it's because we watched it, or at least I did. I watched it on television for the first time when I watched this movie.
This was the first time I watched it.
Okay. So I half expected commercials at certain points.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I watched it on television as a kid originally or not,
Right.
but it was definitely a different movie. Same Jack Ryan,
Same Jack Ryan.
same family,
So,
which I appreciated. So
because
what?
they did change the wife and child from Red Hunt for Red October and then Clear and Present Danger.
Right. Now, there are a couple characters in this one that
Or Patriot Games, I'm sorry.
they kind of stand out. William Dafoe's character, who they called Clark the entire time,
Yeah.
who we'll revisit later.
Yeah. I really think that he played that character very well.
Mhm.
Like, he was kind of slimy,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, he was very direct.
Yes.
And you knew what you were getting when you dealt with him. And then with what happens at the end of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
where they're going to try and find the people who have been left to hang out to dry.
Right.
The way he showed care for them
Yeah.
made me go, okay, he's not completely a
jerk.
sleazebag. Yeah. And some of that may have been that as soon as I saw him, I went, oh, it's the Green Goblin. And so I'm imposing a character that he is not playing.
Right. Absolutely.
I legitimately kept waiting for him to pull out a hoverboard, like, and fly away.
That's funny. There's another character played by a guy named Henry Czerny. Can never say his last name. Czerny. And he's interesting because he plays a character named Ritter, who was another political individual who was kind of the one behind things, doing stuff a little slimy himself.
Ritter needed to be punched in the face.
The entire movie, I wanted to punch him.
His nose was just asking for a good pop.
Right. So this character was the one that was causing most of the problems for Jack Ryan in the film, and created the situation where they had men left in was it Cuba? I think it was Cuba, that were
Maybe.
getting murdered.
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who was acting on everything. He was not the one behind it all because he did not initially have the orders, but he was the one who was executing it.
Yeah.
So you could say that he was the one behind it all and the one responsible for it all,
Right.
but he also was not the one whose idea it was.
Yeah. So, I don't know. This one for me, not that it was a bad movie. It just doesn't stand out to me as much for whatever reason. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
I did appreciate that the actors who were supposed to be Latinos were Latinos.
Exactly.
Like everybody, like a lot of the actors, I went and looked them up. There's one of the main guys from the squad team that you're not supposed to know about.
Right.
He was in Miss Congeniality.
Was it Raymond Cruz? Played Chavez? He was the guy that at the end with the sniper
Maybe.
they saved?
Yeah. He was in Miss Congeniality. And because I kept going, he looks familiar and he's young. He's not as thin as he was. He still has a little bit of baby fat on his face. But
Right.
it's just, I respect that because I'm going, okay, they went out of their way to legitimately find people who have that particular heritage.
Exactly. So, which sometimes in films they don't do that too well.
Especially older films. James Earl Jones
Was a rock star in these movies.
in these movies. I was so sad that he was not in the rest of them.
Right. Any other thoughts on this film before we go on to the next one?
No, not necessarily.
So the next one we're going to do is debated by some people as to its laurels. A couple people have said it is the absolute worst one in the series, and they hated it for various reasons. But that is the Sum of All Fears, which came out in 2002. CIA analyst Jack Ryan must stop the plans of a neo-Nazi faction that threatens to induce a catastrophic conflict between the United States and Russia's president by detonating a nuclear weapon at a football game in Baltimore, Maryland. And this stars Ben Affleck, which one of our listeners just threw up in his soul.
He did.
Hear the name?
He did.
And Morgan Freeman,
Who is phenomenal.
who is a fantastic actor. So this particular movie, like the other ones, like I said, it does a great job of the the central threat being something very much grounded in the time frame.
Yeah.
This is post 9/11. We're looking for weapons of mass destruction. This was a legitimate fear people had.
Yeah.
And it was also during the time frame of the apocalyptic movies.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of that stuff happening at the time.
There was a lot of apocalyptic movies in the early 2000s.
I think it was a lot of it. I think some of it was stemmed after the scare of the we've hit the millennium 2000. You know, there were all those, the world's going to end, or the computers are all going to shut down and fall apart. All that kind of stuff taking place.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm. The storytelling in the cinematography is grounded in the year 2002. That is the biggest. I'm not sure what it was about. It was like cinematographers were like, look, we have all this technology. Let's use it. And it was the puberty of filmography, if you will, because they were trying to do so much stuff that wasn't working quite yet. And there was new types they were getting away from traditional film and going towards more of a digital film. And so things just weren't
quite tracking.
Right. The story itself, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a stronger spy film.
I loved this movie, but, and I think I told you this, it's not a good Jack Ryan movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good movie, which, again, somebody just threw up in their spirit. But we've had conversations with a couple of our friends who listen to the podcast.
Right.
So it's a good movie for what it is. You take into account it's the early 2000s. It's a good spy film. But I almost feel like it would have made a better Mission Impossible movie.
I can see that.
If you had taken Tom Cruise, done the whole Mission Impossible team with it, and done that same storyline, but with Mission Impossible, people would have loved it.
Yeah. I think, again, it wasn't a good Jack Ryan story. And I'm not sure how much of this was Tom Clancy's doing or not, but it wasn't working for me. Ben Affleck wasn't a terrible actor in this. Some people are just prejudiced about it because they love to hate things. But it wasn't a great... Again, he's working with scripts that just aren't right for what, and I don't know why he chose this, but
because it would be a popular movie, it would get a lot of money on the front end.
Yeah,
as a actor, I can see why you would automatically go, "Oh, a Tom Clancy movie. Let me get in on that."
Exactly, and this is supposed to be a reboot, like This is completely removed from the other. The first three. The first three were loosely together. Yeah, this one is completely restart, reboot, refresh type of mindset. I was frustrated that we didn't have Greer, which was who was played by James Earl Jones. Yeah. The Greer-like character was a character named DCI William Cabot, played by Morgan Freeman, who dies.
Yeah. And Morgan Freeman does a fantastic job, but without Greer, it doesn't feel right.
And so, it was also another weakness is they were trying to play with new fancy technology a bit too much. This is the age of the PDA.
Oh, Lord.
For our younger audience, personal digital assistant. Picture your smartphone without the phone function.
Yeah.
And that was the PDA.
Well, you kind of needed a PDA to not have the phone function because remember that awkward time frame where they were trying to cross a phone and a PDA at the same time? I had one of those.
Oh, wow.
And I constantly called 911 with my hip because if you held down a specific button,
right,
it would call 911. I got into so much trouble.
Right. But they kept going to the stupid thing. Like Ryan is in a truck that's catching on fire.
And he's texting.
Well, emailing.
It was the precursor to texting.
Yeah. And it was like, and I'm sitting there going, knowing what I know, like it looked like a text messaging. It's like what we know today. But knowing what I know about how technology worked back then, it wasn't that quick. That thing would have to sit there for a second and loading messages, hoping you got the right satellite signal from it.
Which, considering that a nuclear bomb just went off, you were not getting a satellite signal.
So, and then they try to shoehorn this, like, they were trying to set up at the very end, like, hey, this is going to be the Russian agent that he's going to be working with for the series that never took place afterwards.
Yeah.
So it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't as forgettable as some people seem to think it is. I think it's only forgettable if you haven't seen it in 100 years.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you could say that about all these movies, to be perfectly honest.
But again, it's very much set in a time frame.
Yeah.
And it's just not a great Jack Ryan movie.
Right. Now, I do want to talk about, there's another character that's in this, and it is Clark. Clark is in this movie, who was played by Green Goblin in the previous movie. Can't pull up his name right now for some reason.
I know that actor has been in other things, though.
Well, he was Sabretooth.
Yes.
And his version of Clark was, I liked it.
Yeah.
They didn't do a great job explaining who he was. It was kind of thrown in there. But I like his snarkiness to it. I think he could have been a better Jack Ryan, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that if they had casted him as Jack Ryan, this movie might have done a little better.
That actor would have made a good Jack Ryan, I think.
So, but it was a cool like CIA agent who, he was kind of black ops, which is who Clark is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, overall, not a terrible movie, not the best, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Again, I think if you take it outside of the series, it's not a bad movie.
Mm-hmm. So, any last thoughts on this one?
No. Although I will say, I say that. I will say this while you're looking up the description of the next movie, that the future wife was annoying in this one. Like, she was whiny, and I'm going...
She was not as strong. They tried to play her off as this modern, strong, independent woman, but she was so whiny the entire time.
Yeah. I feel like Harrison Ford's wife in the other two movies did a better job of being a strong woman.
Totally.
Like, she's raising a family, she's having a baby, she's doing what she needs to do, but she's a strong woman. This girl was a whiny frat girl,
right,
or sorority girl, rather than someone that I could actually see being married to a CIA analyst in this world where he's not a CIA analyst, but he is. Right,
exactly. He was an analyst, but it just...
I just say that because it feels like all of them have started out with, I'm just an analyst. Here's a gun. Bang.
That's one thing. That was one weakness about this one, I think, is that he complained about...
so much.
Like, more than... Baldwin put it out a couple times. In the first movie, obviously, only the first movie, Harrison Ford mentions it, but it's not because he moves on, like he's there for a mission. This Jack Ryan complains all the time that he's just an analyst.
He complains so much. I wonder how he actually was in the Marines. Like,
Thank you.
Marines do not complain that much. They're the ones that you have to worry about dying standing up because they were injured 20 miles back.
Exactly.
And they just didn't say anything.
Now, there is the whole, like, look, I'm an analyst, understanding your position, what you do.
Right.
But they'll do what they have to do. They'll jump in there. But this Ryan, the entire first half of the movie, complained that he was just an analyst.
Clark handed him a gun and you would have thought it was a snake. I'm like, you were a Marine.
Exactly.
This is not new to you.
Exactly. And that may be my biggest problem with this.
Yeah.
Just, he was not a good Jack Ryan.
No, he was not.
So, all right. Well, let's talk about another reboot. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit from 2014, starring Chris Pine and Kevin Costner. And the description reads as follows. Jack Ryan, as a young covert CIA analyst, uncovers a Russian plot to crash the U.S. economy with a terrorist attack. So, this film was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
I thought I legitimately, I could have gone for more films of this.
I agree.
I could have gone for more of this one. This felt more like this felt less of a spy film and more of a caper film, though.
I'll give you that. But again, in 2014, we were getting a lot of the caper films. We were getting a lot of the Ocean's 11 stuff were real hyped up. We were what's the one where they do blackjack? 21.
Oh yeah,
that was a thing.
What's that thing? Okay.
It was roughly around that time frame. This was probably at the tail end of all that, but those had done very well. The Ocean's movies could put out an Ocean's 48 and somebody would go see it. But,
Ocean's 48.
but it came into a time frame where caper movies were more of the theme, the flavor of the year, the month, whatever.
Right. So, the one issue I had with this though was the way they played off Jack Ryan.
Okay.
There was always the whole, he doesn't tell you what he does. He is a CIA analyst, but he had to lie to his girlfriend or his wife, whatever, about being said thing. However, at the same time, like this particular Jack Ryan, it wasn't just that he was doing that. He was undercover. Like he was working for a legitimate business as a financial analyst and pretending like he was just that. So he was therefore a shadow recruit. And that added to the spy filter things. You know, the kind of the sleeper agent aspect, but it felt out of character for his thing.
Yeah, it did a little bit, but at the same time, because they were trying to go back to his origins, it kind of made sense as to why he would be able to see numbers and see patterns, and more so than anything else we'd been given.
Well, yes and no. It makes sense for the assignment, but again, it's just such a departure from every other rendition of Jack Ryan, including the modern TV series. He is a CIA agent working for the CIA. He doesn't tell people he does. He tells them he's just an analyst, which he is. He runs numbers. This is a flat out covert, multi-year long operation.
That's true.
This is a completely different. So he is a sleeper, just like the villain was a sleeper in Small Town America, which I just realized that's the Russian guy from Stranger Things.
Yeah, I said that when we were watching it.
I missed that.
It's Alexei.
Yeah. So I missed it until just now, until I saw the face. But this is much more of a spy op, which was interesting. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. But it was just very different from the previous Jack Ryan renditions that we've seen.
Yeah. I will say that I enjoyed Keira Knightley as the female, as his girlfriend / fiance / wife / whatever. She did a good job of playing the more stronger woman. At the same time, I can't see the CIA being like, yeah, let's pull this doctor into these covert operations, even if she's here. They would have just disappeared her.
So, I mean, they gave good reasoning for it, though.
They did.
They gave, they have to do it now. They would have done some other stuff, I think, to prep for it. But let's talk about Kenneth Branagh, though. He was a great villain.
He was fantastic. I like him and stuff. I've seen him in similar roles where he plays this almost sympathetic bad guy, and he does great with it.
So, I almost didn't recognize him because what he sticks out to me the most about is from Hercule Poirot. And I just didn't recognize him without the giant mustache.
He did a good job with that too. Like he was just really good.
Yeah. So I thought it was it was a good movie. It was a lot of fun. I kind of wish this one had picked up.
Me too.
I'm not sure why it didn't, but it was good.
I will say that there was one part that I really enjoyed, and it's real small, but it's after he goes to, where were they? Were they in Russia? No. Wait, were they? Were
Yes.
they in Russia?
He was in Russia the entire time.
Okay. When he first goes to Russia and the bodyguard tries to kill him and he ends up killing the bodyguard in self-defense, he calls a line to basically be like, hey, this is what's happening.
And he's freaking out.
And he is freaking out. And they had the person on the phone break protocol and go, this is where you're going. This is what you're doing in plain terms, because he goes, ma'am, I'm just an analyst. I only spent 2 weeks at the farm. And so she breaks the protocol. She tells him what's going on. And she goes, remember your training. You're a Marine.
Right.
And then he goes, and he's good.
Yeah.
Like, he still has nerves. He still has issues. But that scene to me was, because we complained so much about Ben Affleck not being Marine enough,
Right.
that they showed his humanity with he's freaking out because he just killed a man.
Right.
And
he's 10 years removed from active combat.
He's 10 years removed from active
That
combat.
needs to be reminded, because he was in the movie. Starts off with 9/11. He drops out of college, goes in to join the Marine Corps, and right out of the Marine Corps, about 3 years into it, close to the end of his first tour, basically, he is shot down in a terrible accident, rescues all his men. I have a hard time believing that in those 3 years of active combat post 9/11 that he didn't kill a man.
Yeah.
But I could believe possibly that he had not killed somebody so close.
Yeah,
like
so directly.
So directly. But it's still 10 years since those incidences.
So even if he had not actually killed someone in the war, then it would make sense that it's been 10 years and he thought he was done with this.
Exactly. So it was interesting to see that play out. And I think he was the most Marine of it.
Yeah.
Like, Harrison Ford plays a older Jack Ryan who is, again, he's retired, but he goes back into it. Alec Baldwin plays a young man who's just started off as an analyst, who's not super involved with things. To be fair, never given the opportunity to really be super involved.
That's true.
Although I do have issues with the fact that he seemed very uncomfortable with the boat situation when he was in the sub. I'm like, come on, dude. But this one, Pine did a great job. I think he was the most Marine out of all of them.
I would agree with that.
So any other standout thoughts on this one?
It again is very set in its time in the cinematography and what was happening in the storyline, which is not a bad thing. It's just interesting. It was a little more shiny, if that makes sense. Like, everything was bright. Everything
super bright.
Was super lit. I don't know how to say it other than lit up. Like, you can tell the difference in the film because of how they're doing things. They didn't try to do anything super flashy with the I
just realized
special effects.
that Kenneth Branagh was the director also.
Oh, well, good job, Kenneth Branagh. But yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed it though.
So he's also, just for information, he's the one that directed Death on the Nile, Belfast, which we have a review on our website from, Murder on the Orient Express. He did the Cinderella movie. He directed Thor, like the first Thor.
Oh.
He directed Hamlet. So, I mean,
he's a good director then.
He's done some good stuff. So, all right. Are you ready for the last film that we watched?
Very different tone.
Very different tone. Very different film. It's not about Jack Ryan at all, but still, this is almost a prequel to anything Jack Ryan. Well, it is a prequel to anything Jack Ryan.
I heard somebody say that because this is a Prime exclusive movie, that it's actually connected to the series.
Interesting.
That it's not connected to any of the other movies, but it is connected to the Prime series.
Interesting. Well, what we're talking about is the Amazon Prime film, Without Remorse, which came out in 2021 with Michael B. Jordan,
who is a very good actor.
An elite Navy SEAL goes on a path to avenge his wife's murder, only to find himself inside of a larger conspiracy. I think you hit it on the nose. This is an entirely different type of movie. This is much more grunt, which it needs to be said. He plays a character named John Kelly. And spoiler alert, they changed his name to John Clark, who in the previous Jack Ryan movies was played by William Dafoe and Sabretooth.
So it was interesting. It connects the dots to me as to why, not so much Sabretooth, but why William Dafoe's character was so disconnected. I don't care. I know things. I know how to get crap done, but I really just want you to leave me alone.
Right. He was definitely it's a really interesting character to see played out. He is the rogue black ops CIA operative who the government has the deniability aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And but this is very much a guerrilla warfare, man on the ground type of film. It starts off with these SEALs dealing with a situation that goes sideways because Ritter, who's back again, gives them bad information or withholds information.
This version also needed to be punched in the face.
The entire time. So
good job to both of those actors for acting like they just needed a good whap.
Yeah. So we hope that nobody does that to you in person.
We truly don't.
But you're fantastic
at playing that character.
Yes. So, but I don't know. This was a good film. This was again very different film. I think it was a good palate cleanser for us coming off the other Jack Ryan films.
It was. Did you ever see Man on Fire with Denzel Washington?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like that.
Okay.
It felt like he has a score to settle and he really doesn't care what you think.
It almost gives me the vibes of the second Jack Ryan movie, Patriot Games, where it's so personal. It's you've come after my family.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to take care of you. Only this is whereas Jack Ryan stayed behind the scenes for the majority of it and did the stuff. This guy, Kelly - Clark, he's like, nope, I'm coming after you.
I think the difference is the standards. They establish very well in most of these movies that Ryan's a Boy Scout. He is somebody who is going to follow the letter and the intention of the law.
Right.
He is going to, if you meant the law to mean this, he is not veering from that.
Yes.
Very much a upright character.
Right.
Not that Kelly / Clark wasn't upright, but there was... He is what would have happened to Ryan if Ryan's wife had died. Yes. Because he would have lost... He's the man that broke. Everything. He's the one who is more okay being in the gray areas. It's kind of okay. It's kind of not. But still holding a standard. Like the fact that during the big portion of the film, they're in a very terrible situation and they realize they've been set up and that they were meant to die on this op and be discovered and start a new war. And so he sacrifices himself to save the entire team. Again, going back to Willem Dafoe's character, who was, I'm sacrificing myself to save my entire team. It's a great character. I really enjoy. I want to see more of this character. And it speaks a lot to the fact of you can have a morally gray character who still has standards, who still has lines that they don't want crossed. Right. So now, when we did this one, everyone was asking me if I'd played the Tom Clancy Rainbow Six games. Because apparently that's where this character lives mostly, is in the Rainbow Six games. In the books, obviously. Yeah. I'm not much of a reader. So you're not going to... I'm sorry, guys, I'll do a review on those. If somebody wants to sponsor me playing the game, I'll play one of the games. I've been hesitant about the games, though, because all I hear about is like the multiplayer online stuff, and that doesn't interest me. I want a story. Yeah. So... if somebody can point me to a proper Rainbow Six game that has story and it's not about going online to play other people, I'm down. I'll try to track it down. I'll play it. But I enjoyed this character a lot. I appreciate the conflict. I appreciate him having to, I'm angry, but I'm going to do what I need to do type of thing. I do prefer the Jack Ryan Boy Scout. I'm going to do things the right way. Yeah. But I appreciate this is the broken man story. Yeah, exactly. The fact that, and this is a bit of a spoiler for the movie, but the fact that at the end, you really didn't know if he was just giving up. If he was like, I'm taking you down and I don't care if I go down with you. Yeah. That's not what happened, but right. It's great storytelling. It was phenomenal storytelling. I enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun to me. So, all right. Well, any last thoughts on this film before we take a break? Nope, think I'm good.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Celeste and I are going to give our ratings. We're going to put these films in order.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be some interesting caveats. A couple of you are going to be angry at us.
Probably.
And that's okay.
We're okay with that.
So we'll catch you on the other side of the break.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
Hey y'all, my name's The Keeper. I have been told that I'm something of a, what they call a Q-type character in this show called Playing Games with Strangers. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, given the implications of who this Q is on this fangled Star Trek or whatever it's called. But anyway, I recommend heading on over to Playing Games with Strangers and listening to an episode or two and possibly letting them know that no, he's not Q. He's a benevolent, all-knowing creature who just happened to put somebody in the wrong timeline. Anyway, I'll see y'all then. Thanks for listening.
And we are back. Don't forget to go check out the people that we advertised. I don't know who we're putting in there yet, but whoever they are, we support them.
We do.
We don't advertise for people we don't support. We don't have paid advertisement where we're like, we know nothing about this person. Everybody that you hear, we have a relationship with.
We don't have paid advertisement, period.
We don't have paid advertisement, period. But everybody that we advertise for is somebody we have a relationship with.
Absolutely.
So.
That's a key thing for us, is a relationship.
Yeah, we like friendships. So we are going to be ranking the movies. We're going to try to wrap this up pretty quickly because we've gone a little longer than we normally do when it's just the two of us. But so you want to go bottom to top?
Yeah, let's do bottom to top.
Okay.
And again, it's gonna get muddy because the question becomes: are we doing Ryanverse movies or are we doing Jack Ryan movies?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, because if we're doing Ryanverse movies,
We can include Without Remorse.
yes, but at the same time, it's the standard. Like, how are we rating this? Is it a good movie? Is it a good Jack Ryan movie?
I would say, because I have ranked mine mentally based on being good Jack Ryan movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say let's not include Without Remorse. We agree it's a good movie.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it. It doesn't fit in.
But even with that caveat, and this is a real life conversation, one of your rating systems, there's a struggle because you and I talked about one particular movie is a superior film to another, but it's weaker because of the conversation of Ryan.
Yeah. Which is why I'm saying let's just agree Without Remorse is a good movie.
Great movie.
We're not going to include it in the rankings.
No, I'm not talking about.
Oh.
That's already moved. I'm talking about there's a particular movie that we've liked.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it has Ryan in it.
I'm going to rank it by if it's a good Jack Ryan movie.
Okay. So that means a superior film.
Well, it may not be at the top.
All right. Well, this is going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen.
People are going to be angry at me.
All right. So what's your number 5 Jack Ryan film?
Sum of All Fears.
Sum of All Fears. Now, are you saying it's a trash movie nobody should watch? Like some people suggest?
God, no. It's not bad. It's just not a good Jack Ryan movie because he doesn't act like a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, because of everything we listed in the other thing. He's not a good Marine. It's not a good Jack Ryan movie. It'd be a fantastic Mission Impossible movie, but it's not a good Jack Ryan movie.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'm going to fall in the same camp. It's probably the bottom of the bucket for Jack Ryan films. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but it's just not great.
Yeah.
And if we were doing retro rewind rating, it would be nostalgia.
Yeah.
If we were doing bottom shelf, it'd probably be a bottom shelf, to be honest.
Yeah. It's not bad enough to burn. It's not middle shelf.
It's there. So, all right, cool. So we're agreed on that one.
Yeah.
So number 4.
What's your number 4?
My number 4, and this may make people upset, is actually Clear and Present Danger.
I could see that.
It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It drug a little bit at times, and it was like it felt like a made for TV. The scope of it wasn't so big. It felt like a Rambo movie for some reason at times.
Kind of could see that.
But with less action, and it was a good film. I enjoyed it. But I think it was a weaker film compared to the other ones.
Yeah. This is where people are going to start getting angry at me.
They are.
Because my number 4 is going to be Hunt for Red October.
Celeste Gail Mora?
That is not my legal name, and you know that. It's not that the movie itself does not deserve to be number 4. The movie itself was phenomenal. It's great. As a Jack Ryan movie, he gets lost. He is not the main character of this movie. He is not even a side character. He is a plot point. He is a vehicle to get from A to B.
You said it best. He was an NPC.
He's an NPC. He is somebody who is there to give you your side quest.
Right. The reason why that's not my number 4 is I feel like Harrison Ford and Clear and Present Danger was not the Jack Ryan that we knew. This is he's elevated in authority. He's doing more stuff. He's no longer an analyst. He is the director of the freaking CIA, basically.
Yeah.
And
acting director.
Director. And it was just so different, which props to Ford for being able to play that. To go from one film where he's this, and then there is a difference over here. And so that's, again, it was just a very different Ryan from what I would consider Ryan to be.
Yeah. And
so that's the reason why Clear and Present Danger for me is number 4.
That's actually why it's number 3 for me.
Really? Go explain.
It's like you said, it's a good movie. It's more of a made for TV movie. I would watch it again. It's not terrible, but it doesn't fit as well into the spy intrigue because it is dealing more with the upper echelon of things. You have the president, you have the secretary, you have him being acting director of the CIA, you have Ritter. I mean, it's all of these things that can be incorporated into a spy CIA type movie, but it was so much the focus, and Dale is right. It's really a made for TV movie. It's not as good of a quality as the others.
Right. I get that. I totally get that. So for me, my number 3, and just remind my remaining 3 are Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, and then Shadow Recruit. And so the question becomes, is it a good Jack Ryan film? And this is where I put Hunt for October. I like all these. I like all 3 versions of Jack in this.
Yeah.
But this one gets lost, as we've said, just exhaustingly so. He just gets lost in the entirety of the film.
He does.
You forget that he exists almost. And again, it's not a knock against Baldwin. It's just the casting of
Sean
Connery was so strong, and the storytelling was wrapped around Connery, and so many other plot points that he is just simply the vehicle to get from point A to point B.
And again, the book series, the book may have been very much like that, but I feel like if that's the case, then that book isn't a great Jack Ryan book.
Well, we had watched a bit of the commentary, and they had said that they made some major changes to this story. In fact, Connery wasn't going to do it originally because he felt like it wasn't going to work. And they're like, no, we're setting this in the 80s so that it will work. But they made a lot of changes. And again, Baldwin was very active in certain things. The whole like falling from the helicopter in the water, that was Baldwin's doing.
He was like, well, what if I do this? Like, what if you have the camera in this place? So, I mean, he was definitely active in the movie.
Right.
It's just the storytelling, he wasn't there.
Exactly. So So Hunt for October is number 3 for me. So we're down to our top 2.
Okay. You have Shadow Recruit and Clear and Present Danger. No, that's what I have.
Yes. I have Patriot Games and Shadow Recruit.
There we go.
You have...
Patriot Games and Shadow Recruit.
So we have the same 2.
We have the same 2.
So these are our top 2 movies, clearly. How do you place number 4?
You mean number 2?
Yes, number 2. Who's does number 2 work for?
I'm gonna phrase this with I am biased to early 90s movies.
Oh.
Because I really enjoy movies set in the early 90s. There's something about the way the storytelling does that just resonates with me. So my number 2 is going to be Shadow Recruit.
I respect that.
It's good. I would have loved more movies in that series, but it did not. Like, I would go watch Patriot Games right now if you wanted to. If you're like, hey, let's go rewatch it, I'm like, yes. If you wanted to rewatch Shadow Recruit, be like, let's watch Star Trek. Like, I feel like that's a better role for Chris Pine is Kirk.
Yeah.
So
I get that. I'm actually in the same boat. I'm going to put as number 2 Shadow Recruit because this is a far more aggressive espionage type of movie. Again, he was a quote unquote shadow recruit. He wasn't just an analyst. He was a sleeper agent.
Yeah. They were trying to change the story and it didn't quite work.
Right. But it was interesting. I would say it was great up until probably the last third of the film.
Yeah.
Where they went into the sleeper agents on stateside. It was interesting. I feel like they could have done more with that. But this was definitely a far more action-packed version than some other ones that we've seen. And it was action that worked. There was a little more intensity to certain scenes. I really enjoyed it though. Like we said, I would like to see more of this Jack Ryan.
Yeah, I definitely would be down for that.
So for both of us, our top 1 is
The Patriot Games.
Patriot Games.
I loved that movie.
Yeah. I like the fact that it was grounded. Again, it was a more mature Jack Ryan. So he wasn't whining all the time.
Yeah.
He was a man on a mission.
Yeah.
He was a man who jumped. I appreciate that he just jumped in to take care of a situation right at the front end. That's training.
Yeah.
That's I'm going to take care of this situation. Now, in story, he goes, I just reacted. It was just rage. No, I mean, just because of who we know.
Yeah.
It was I'm going to stop a situation from getting worse. That's how that would have played out.
Well, and if you break it down, the mindset probably based on the people we know who think like that, it would be if I let this go, if I let this get worse, then a stray bullet is going to hit my wife or my daughter.
Right.
If I stop this now, that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And so it probably was because if you take it into the character's mind, Ryan's mind, it probably was rage of how dare you put my family in danger. Not a rage of just anger, but
my family's in danger.
My family's in danger and I need to take care of this.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're in my way.
Yeah. So Patriot Games was just a far better film. It was out of all 5 Jack Ryan films, it was a better film. Now, does Hunt for a Red October deserve a higher spot as a quality of film?
Oh, yes.
Yes, from where we put it, much higher spot. It was a much higher quality film.
It was a better quality movie. The script was better. It was heads and tails above. But as a Jack Ryan movie,
that's the trick.
It's not.
So that being said, those of you who are listening, what did you guys think of the Jack Ryan series? If you've seen it, if you haven't seen the Ryanverse, encourage you to go check it out. And after you do, let us know your thoughts. How do you rate them as Jack Ryan films, not as films?
Yeah, because as films, the lineup would be very different.
Right, but as Jack Ryan films, how do you guys rate them? Let us know. That being said, we mentioned this on the front of the show. Want to say it one more time. we had the opportunity to be interviewed and featured on K-Love and Air Love, or Air One, which are they're basically the same radio station now, but they're separate stations, but
owned by the same company.
Same company, but they did an article about us at Geek Devotions, and it was a great honor, and we appreciated it. And we'll have a link in the description down below for you guys to check out that article and their podcast interview with us.
Yeah.
So, Celeste, you got anything else you want to add?
It's Tiny But Mighty Month.
It is Tiny But Mighty Month.
So we're going to be doing a devotion on Ant-Man Quantumanium later.
Yep. We got several things going on with that whole aspect. We had an episode on Rexy from How Ridiculous.
Yeah.
We had one on Mikun.
How to Care for a Mummy.
So all tiny characters with big possibilities. So that being said, Celeste, let's land this plane.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you have loved this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, or leave a review. It is very much appreciated. So until next time, stay devoted.
Peace and love.